Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artists Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The South Coast Artist Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere. Learn more at heavenlyspirits.com.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with another episode of the South Coast Artists Index podcast. And today we have an author. And we have only had a handful of authors. One of them is, which range quite a bit. We've had two Portuguese authors. One was a cookbook author. She pretty much covered the author title as well as a culinarian because it was a cookbook. But this one is a author of fiction, and I will, as I always do, have her introduce herself and spell her name.
Hello, my name is Manuela DaCosta, Manuela with an A at the end, Manuela. My father was Manuel, but I'm Manuela Da Costa, DaCosta.
It's funny because, again, and I repeat it all the time, just in case this is the first episode that they've heard in over 200 of episodes that we've produced. You're driving in a car or whatever, and you hear someone say their name, and you don't, it's like, your ears either not tuned to an accent or not tuned to a specific language, or it just doesn't sound right, and so it's very, very, very important. So when your daughter Laura Harrington, who was a guest on this show previous to you, told me about you being an author and the series of books that you've written. I was kind of intrigued. I am intrigued. I still am intrigued because I don't think... when we think of Portuguese authors, we think of, there's so many of them. It seems like Portugal has come into its own finally in so many different ways. Yes. Success is all about timing, right? So tell us a little bit about how this all began. And you know what? You just live down the street, which is...
The world is small after all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So I always liked to write. And I am an avid reader. This avidity, this love for reading came around because I had this huge complex that I didn't know how to read when all my friends knew how to read. And I loved first grade. I was 7. Everybody could read. And I couldn't, because you probably know that in Portugal, the schools could hit the children. Mm-hmm. And although my parents believed in corporal punishment, I was never one that was targeted by my parents. And I think it's because I was smaller than everybody else, and they thought that I was sickly, which I wasn't. But that worked well for me, the fact that they thought that I was sickly. And when I went to school, the teacher was really a brute. And I cannot learn or be happy or do anything if I fear something. And I fear that teacher. And I left school I could not read. And so the printed word for me became this magic. How can people look at a book and come up with a story? And I had this complex that I didn't know how to read. And then in one vacation, summer came around, and I taught myself how to read. And I never stopped after that. I read everything I could put my hands on. And after reading certain things, I used to think, I think I could do a better job than this one. And I would try stories based on what I've read. Mm-hmm. And here started my passion for reading and for writing.
So other than the fear of the instructor and just the bad chemistry, was there anything else? I mean, my father was profoundly dyslexic. I mean, profound dyslexic.
I think I'm a bit too.
He was highly intelligent. And every job that he ever took, until he started his own job, his own business, within months he was in a supervisory position. And no one ever suspected he could not read or write. And, we tried, and it was just beyond us because yet, I used to use him as a case study when I was teaching my marketing classes because he was genius when it came down
That's
to
right.
certain things.
Yeah.
So you think it's
Those
slight
days,
dyslexia?
in those days,
Yeah.
we didn't have those diagnoses.
No,
They, if you could do certain things, you were intelligent. If you couldn't, you were dumb. Even if you were brilliant, like
Exactly.
your father.
Yeah.
So I am a bit dyslexic, but this is a self-diagnosis. But I know what dyslexia is,
Yeah.
and I know I have those traits. But at the time, it was just I couldn't read, so I must be stupid.
Right. Yeah, and that can really. It's amazing how education.
Marcus,
Can,
they do Marcus.
And people talk about the good old days. At least kids learn something, but no. I mean, I'm flashing back now to Immaculate Conception. The nuns was not. They were not. They were the Marian Jesus Society of Marian Jesus. They were not Portuguese nuns. And then when the influx of immigrants started coming in, they didn't know what to do. So they would sit the immigrants at the very back of the class, and they would give them math problems. And by the time the nun reached her desk at the front of the room and turned around, the immigrant children would be sitting there with their hands folded on their desk. And it's like, what? Because they were incredibly quick at the math.
Exactly.
And there's this whole thing with education that some good, some bad.
Yes.
Unfortunately. How did you now? Is the Hawk Island series? Was that the first attempt, the genesis of that, or
No.
did you bounce around until you finally landed on this?
Yes, I was published first in 1993 in Portugal with the book Os Sonhos de Donadores, which is an operetta. And that operetta was published by the Portuguese government as a document on immigration seen through the eyes of women. So the Os Sonhos de Donadores, half of it is set in Portugal and the other half in America. And it depicts the struggle of Portuguese people wanting to leave for a better place. And America was that better place. There was nothing in this world better than America. So every woman wanted to marry an American, and every boy wanted to marry an American girl to come to America. And that's what Os Sonhos de Donadores talks about. That dichotomy, loving your country but wanting to leave.
Oh yeah. I'm getting memories.
Yeah.
I've spoken about her so many times on this podcast, but the rage that she had. They went back. Her father obviously was not a normal, by standards. I mean, he got married here in the Bedford City Hall. A crypto Jew, so was always walking on eggshells. There was that thing about being poor. Yes. Although I think, according to my cousin, I think she probably pushed that a little bit more than necessary, because I found out that Fazenda, the farm in Caldas in Vila Couto, was a showcase. He was highly intelligent, and he did things that were not traditional, and so on and so forth. But they returned, and right after World War II ended, my grandmother forced her to leave Portugal because she said that was her country. So what you're saying is exactly the truth. And then returning to Portugal, I'd love to be able to do a story or something on it. The steamer trunk.
Mm-hmm.
The steamer trunk was like this magic box. And some of the villages, the backwoods people, they were very jealous of their experiences and such, and there were marvels in there. I mean, of any kind, of all
That's
kinds,
right.
and so they always looked down on my grandparents for assuming that my grandparents looked down on them. But that's so cultural, right?
Yeah, it is very cultural.
So from that book, and it was in Portuguese.
Yes.
Okay, written in Portuguese. Where did you go from there?
Well, then from there I wrote poetry, and I was part of a singing group, and I wrote poetry for the songs for that group. It was called Placard. And actually we won the first and second places on the International Song of the Immigrant.
Wow.
It was songs about immigration, so I wrote the poetry for those songs. And then I went into hiatus for about 16 or 18 years without writing a word. And you probably know that too, that writing is not just a question of having time, it's also a question of having to be emotionally available to write. And for a very long time, I was not emotionally available because I could not write about the things I wanted to write about. Because when you tell your story, you are not telling only your story. You are telling the story of those around you, of your children, of those who are part of your life and you can't say anything good about, right?
Yes.
And then you have to preserve the history of those that are around you, of your children, of those they love, and of the community you are in. So I could not write. If I could not write my truth, I could not write.
But were you writing in your head all the time?
I was thinking about scenarios. And I would write, what do you call it, quadrants?
Yeah. Quatrains.
Yes,
Quatrains,
quatrains, I think.
yeah.
And I would, but that would be just a sporadic thing or something that I used to do just to amuse myself, or even my sisters when we got together. We are 5, the sisters. We are like this group, this cell that no one can get in.
Break through,
Yes, and but this the Hawk Island series. I used to, when I visit my mother, again, she was born in the wrong place. She was a brilliant woman, born in the wrong place. And my mother was a true writer. She wrote beautifully. And she used to tell me stories about my culture. And I wrote those stories down. I asked her to write those stories down. And then she got arthritis in her hands. And she said, I can't write anymore. So I gave her a recorder for her to tell me the stories on the tapes. And that's the stories, the plots that I use in my books. It's the stories that my mother told me. And my mother, she was brilliant in the sense that if a story has 3 parts, if my mother told that story would have about 5 or 6 parts.
Really?
It was never straightforward.
Oh, it was the bouncing.
Oh my God, she was brilliant.
She was bringing in all these other.
Yeah, my mother, and I learned that with her. With my mother was not only what happened, but what could have happened. So my book has a lot what if. What if we women were not so afraid of everything? What if we had pushed back? Where would we be now? Like, we're still a majority, but we still vote for the minority, right? Men are still in power. What are we doing with our votes? Stuff like that. What if? What if we women had more courage? And my mother was a master in the what if.
I tell you, my mother and your mother would have been best friends.
probably they didn't happen.
My mother was a feminista before I even heard that term. I mean, like I said, she would rage, and I always wondered to myself, where did she get this from? And then sometimes things come to you very, very slowly, and it's like, well, she was his shadow. She was Eduardo's shadow.
Yes.
And all the story, everything I know about him is through her. And
Yes.
I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, these views were not normal back then. Not for coitadinhos, not the poor, and certainly not for women.
Exactly.
There were other confinements of the time. And one of the reasons why she didn't want to return to Portugal wasn't just, with the dictatorship gone, was how women were treated.
Yes.
And she railed against that constantly.
Exactly. So your mother, just like my mother, we used to call my mother a galinha verde, the green chicken, because all other chickens are about the same color, but my mother stood up like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
She was very articulate, and she was really very verbose. When she didn't like something, she didn't hold back.
Oh, yeah. They could have been twins.
She didn't hold back.
So when did you pen the first Hawk Island? And did you ever assume that you were going to do a series, or I'm going to do this one and I'll be happy? And
I thought I was going to write a book with all the stories that my mother told me, but then the stories were so many, and then developing the characters, I could not do them justice just in one book. So it ended up being 3, and then after, 3 books is fine, and then I had this small following of people that said, oh no, you are not going to stop at 3. We need to know more about this, that, and the other. So now I'm about to publish the 6th.
Wow.
So all the books have a name. The name of my books are attached to a Portuguese, to an Azorian song. Mm-hmm. Like Hawk Island, the first one, A Ilha do Açor. And then the second one is O Meu Bem, O My Beloved. And the third one is connected with the saudade. Longings are purple black. And every book has a song attached to it. And through that song, I tell the stories that my mother told me. That particular plot for that book.
Wow. My mind is already starting to roll, because it is important. I mean, I'm getting up there, and I had to do this artist talk, so I put together a PowerPoint presentation. I hadn't put one together since I've taught classes. And it was almost like a small retrospective. It's just as if you went back and read your first book all the way through to the 6th, and all of a sudden you're going, how could I miss this? How did I not see that? That kind of idea.
Exactly.
And I figured out, too, that the path that I'm on is partially DNA, and something I've tried to describe to people as the Vitruvian wave. And people have seen the Vitruvian wave, which is called the Greek key on buildings, where you can see it comes up, it's like a box in the box, and the box, it comes back out. And that's how life is. They're almost waves.
Exactly.
Where you see a wave roll into itself, and then the back of it comes up again, and it does the same thing. And that's how the wave action happens. And I think probably what happens is, as you get to be a certain age, you start to realize the patterns that you didn't pay attention to.
Exactly. And I find, because I am already on my 70s, I find that the older I get, the more Portuguese I become. And it's surprising me how I even dream in Portuguese, which I didn't for a very long time. I guess it's the full circle thing that we say. And but this is one of the things that surprised me a lot, because I came to the United States, I was 19 years old. I have 52 years of America, and I am more Portuguese than ever. I don't understand this phenomenon, but it's like, what is this? Am I returning to the original? I have no idea. So we do know that the first years of our lives are the most formative, right? So my 19 years in Portugal, those years are the canvas for the rest of the picture that developed.
Yeah, I
But
believe that.
it surprised me.
I believe that.
This trajectory of my life surprised me a lot.
So, based on that idea, the Vitruvian wave, you've actually rolled into yourself. So now, the next chapter, you don't know when that's going to happen. And I don't mean your books. The next chapter of your life, as that wave unrolls itself in its forward motion, because it isn't a straight line.
No.
It does, and sometimes that wave just flattens out.
And that when you spoke about that wave, that's
Yeah.
when I remember what I was feeling. I am disappointed with the politics of the country, and
Who isn't?
maybe that thing to return to, because I left the country, Portugal, and Portugal we were under a dictatorship.
Was it? Well, I don't know if you could compare. I mean, my mother lived under Salazar on the mainland. You lived in the Azores. Was it worse in the Azores than it was
yes,
in...
it was even, well, Azores had mild neglect from the mainland. But our isolation made it worse because we never knew what could happen to us. My island is considered the cradle of liberalism.
And that island is?
Terceira.
Terceira, yeah.
Because that's where they sent all the people that they didn't like in the mainland. They sent it to, like,
either
the
there or
exiles.
Tarrafal.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize that they sent... What is it with the T's? Right? I never realized that Terceira was one of them.
If they want to get rid of someone, but they didn't want to put that person in a jail because it would not be politically correct, either they were connected with someone important, so on and so forth, Terceira was a very good place.
That's interesting.
And so we are considered to be the cradle of liberalism because they sent all those thinkers and all those voices, all those vociferous voices against the system to Terceira.
Well, because I mean, I was telling Laura during her podcast that my mother would tell me these stories about you couldn't say anything, blah, 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 and if you did, and I did a post recently about her. It was during the 25th, it's now the 51st anniversary of the Portuguese Revolution, the Carnation Revolution, and what happened to so-and-so? Oh, foi para Africa. He went to Africa. And I could never understand what that meant. I was like, did they just drop him in there, whatever? And then I saw the movie first with Jeremy Irons, The Night Train to Lisbon.
Oh, yes.
And
That's amazing, right?
I was just drop-jawed.
Yes.
At what happened.
Yes.
And I'm surprised that my grandfather, I don't know how he maneuvered his way around that, considering, based on how my mother's character and personality.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter what your culture is. I guess it doesn't matter what that basis is because fascism is fascism. The Portuguese have sins like other countries do. They have the sin of being the innovators of slavery. They have the sin of colonialization.
Yeah.
But they have, from what I could see when I was living there, they have not absolved themselves like, that's in the past. It's a resolution to never do that again.
Yeah, they have self-corrected.
Yeah.
And there is such thing as redemption, right?
Yeah, there is.
And I think we sought it. We sought that redemption because we were the first that initiated the slavery trade, but we also were the first that stopped it.
Right. Abolição
was
in Brazil, I think was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that road to redemption is I wonder if it has anything to do with our religious tendency. We are very religious, but we are very Catholic, And Catholicism has not been this virtuous religion. I mean, corruption is abundant, as you know, and I am not. I don't follow any religion, but I was raised under the teachings of the Catholic Church and under the dogmas, and I decry them because they are not fair to women. And I have two daughters, two beautiful daughters. Well, you know one, the other is just as beautiful. And talented, caring, compassionate women. And when they turned 14, they could choose if they wanted to be in the Catholic Church or not. But I wanted to give them an education of what a religion was, and that was the only thing I knew. And then they could choose. So if they make a choice to follow or not to follow the Catholic Church, it is an informed choice,
right?
Because they were taught all those dogmas and all those, I would say, injuries to women that the Catholic Church still inflicts on women.
Yeah, and my mother would rail against that, and considering her background, she basically was a go-along to get-along Catholic because she knew her father's attitude towards things. And one of the last stories she told me was that she's always been frightened to death of thunder and lightning. Because they were out in the Ushkamps and a bolt landed out in one of the fields of the farm. And I found out later it was a large farm. And a lightning bolt fell a meter or 3 feet in front of her and scared the hell. So as a kid, as soon as you heard the rumble, stay out of the windows. Don't be next to the sink.
My mother used to do that.
Don't be on the phone. I mean, it was, constant.
Cover the mirrors.
Yeah, and although she wasn't religious, Santa Barbara, who was the patron saint of...
Santa Barbara Luz Divina.
Exactly. So I could hear him, going through the whole... Because it was like a pure
What was her
fear.
name? Your mother's name?
My mother, Emilia.
Emilia.
And she didn't have a middle name. It was Emilia Moraes. And that's one of the problems that I've got with the Portuguese genealogy is that when they came through customs or through Ellis Island, some came in through the Port of Providence, Port of Bedford, but they dropped the names, which is your genealogical line, because Maria dos Anjos, blah 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 blah. Because I remember sitting in the clinic in Boarques. Part of my deal of expatriation and my temporary residence is I had to be examined by a Portuguese doctor, by a Portuguese doctor, and to hear these names, it was like, oh my gosh, if only because I have, and then him being a crypto Jew, no idea. But this whole thing of religion now, not so much. Churches there are falling apart. I did discover things of, going back for her funeral that was kind of interesting. I didn't realize they bury you within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then the day of resurrection ceremony, so the funeral process is so different over there.
Yeah. I think it's for health reasons, right?
Yeah, it had to be, because I remember her raging once again on the phone when I would call her every Sunday about the COVID, and Portugal led Europe and the world in the lowest COVID infections period. And then they hit that milestone. It was, I think, for the new year, and everybody went crazy. And then they shot through the roof. And I remember my mother saying, "Oh yeah, the Germans are coming in, and if the Germans are coming in, it's got to really be bad." The German medical people were coming in. But she said, there's people in America haven't experienced these things. When she lived through the smallpox epidemics, when you see bodies being thrown into the back of wagons, but then everybody always thought she was so dramatic because she was a fadista.
Oh.
But you can't sing the Father unless you've lived it.
Exactly.
It's like the blues.
But that's what the Father is, right?
Yeah.
My mother witnessed the plague.
Ooh.
When she was a small girl. Witnessed cases of the plague.
Now, has that come into your books at all?
No, I haven't.
Especially now with when you consider who's running the healthcare system in this country.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's pray that we don't have Ebola because we don't have the department to protect us against that.
And let's go back because I veered off the path, which is so typical. But this idea of the current administration that we have in Washington right now, having lived under a dictatorship,
terrifying.
it's got to be
Terrifying.
There's got to be tripping things in your head.
It is terrifying because I recognize the punch that is coming at us. You know, when you get kicked in the shins, and then if someone kicks you, they hurts a lot because you've been hurt.
You've already got that pain. Yeah,
exactly. So I see it coming, and it's already hurting. When you have people who use their power, their political power, to go after individuals, you are in trouble. We are all in trouble. And what surprises me more than anything else is the statistics that I say, my own statistics, that I had with Portuguese people. I had done my own asking and talking to Portuguese people, and I would say that 90% of the Portuguese immigrants here are pro-Trump. And this surprises the hell out of me.
it's like you Cubans too.
What is it? We have this saying, não peças a quem pediu, nem sirvas a quem serviu. Is this being applied heavily on us? They experienced all of this.
It's
How
like
can-
abused children who become abusers.
I suppose. They are immigrants. They are immigrants. What is there that they don't understand that eventually they will come for them too? You know, I read this something that a little boy was holding up that said, first they came for the journalists, and then we don't know what happened.
Wow. Yeah. In fact, there's a woman who's collecting all of those protest signs that she
It
sees
is.
people posting, and I swear, when this is over, and it will.
You think so?
I think there's a shift that's going on.
We're
There's
going
a
to be
shift.
so broken, though.
Oh, well, I always say after a storm, well, what the storm does is it pretty much tells you where the parts of your roof
The
needed to be
weakness,
fixed
yeah.
before the storm came.
That's a good analogy.
So after the storm, you know to fix those holes so it doesn't happen again. And this thing of, even though I'm not an immigrant, I grew up with immigrants. I remember, I would tell people, there are kitchen tables where I swear if every time that table was handed down to the next bunch that came over from Portugal, you put a notch on a leg, you would see all these notches because that table got passed down to the next one because now they
That's
could
right.
afford to get a real table, a better
Exactly.
table, a new table. And people don't understand that whole immigrant situation. And the country has always been racist in every which way. It's like this new thing that's been trending now. It's like, when did the Irish become white?
Exactly.
My wife is African American. There's a mixture on that side as well, but the French Canadian side. These are the paintings that I used to do when I was just doing abstract work. They're like,
Oh, they're yours?
yeah, these are
very nice.
musical scales, and this is a way to. I kept saying it was just functional. Just trying to do scales, highly intellectual from a visual geek brain kind of thing. And then I went back to do the stuff that I'm doing now, which is it requires more and more boldness, more and more bravery. And you're going to take somebody off. And I don't think if I was grew up like my friends grew up, I don't think I would be the person to do what I'm doing now, because that immigrant experience. My cousin Joe, I remember when they came over because my tia Edwina and my tia Joaquin came over from Caldas, and they came over with the youngest children. The eldest one stayed back. And then when they could afford it, the next one came over, and the next one came over. So Joe and Tony were probably 12, 14 years old, whatever, at the time. And I remember, it was a festa, because you have to,
Of course.
you have to have a feast, a celebration for all of this. And they had a whole bunch of kids. And go wash your hands. We're gonna go eat. And we went into the bathroom, and I turned on the water, and it's running, and and Joe freaks out. He closes the. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "We're gonna run out of water. We're gonna have to go get more." Okay.
And frugality.
It was the frugality, and also like, wow, there's a complete different world. Plus the fact that they didn't know what it was like to come transatlantic 10 to 13 days. They came in a plane.
Exactly.
And then there's this whole thing too that I remember. I think it was my mother saying, "There's two kinds of Portuguese, not the Azorians and the mainlanders, the pre-revolution and the post-revolution."
Yes.
There's a whole different attitude between the two.
Exactly. When I came to the United States, I didn't want to come. I was 19 years old. I was in school. I was the it girl. I had my friends, and I was popular. All of that. Then in 5 hours, I found myself in a shoe factory, working in a shoe factory, working with all those Portuguese that didn't exist
Was
in
it
Portugal.
Nap, by the way? Because that's the only one I can remember in the city.
Frank Noon shoes.
Frank Noon shoes, okay.
Golf shoes. Of all the shoes that I hate golf shoes.
The sound.
Golf shoes. But I, in an instant, I was humbled. And I am grateful for that experience, because when you think you are all that, and when you are 19, you know everything under the sun, right?
Yeah,
you think you know everything.
The world,
my God. To be humbled like that is, that experience is part of my personhood. Mm-hmm. And I am grateful for it now. But at the time it was very painful, because the Portuguese that I encountered in Taunton, those Portuguese did not exist, because they came in the 40s and 50s and Christianized that culture in the 40s and 50s here. Mm-hmm. So there were more Portuguese here than the Portuguese people were Portuguese there.
Right.
And to me that was terrifying, because I belonged nowhere. I had lost my place because I left. I came to a Portuguese community that, in my opinion, had died already. We evolved from that, but not the Portuguese community here. They were still stuck in that. Yeah. And that was terrifying.
Yeah, there are certain hangovers that I experienced. What I mean by hangovers from the old country, but it wasn't until I moved to Figueira when I realized, oh my God, even the language is different.
It's different.
Because frango, it was always galinha here, and I always thought frango was a capon. And it's like little weird, bizarre things. Yeah. And then over here, papsik. You go over there, it's like there's 20 varieties of rolls,
Exactly.
and so there was a weird loss of that, even the massa cevada was so different over there from the massa. But of course, there's Azorian versus continental.
They kept on growing.
Right.
And here we kept that culture that we imported, and it stayed put.
Right. Yeah, it was it's interesting, and as just you're speaking and I'm speaking, I'm wondering, is your brain already thinking about, I could use this for this, and I could use this for that, because I'm thinking of that myself too. I mean, I've been wanting to do, I've got so many series of work that I want to do, and everybody thinks because I married a black woman, I'm going to be doing all black subjects. No, it's about people who have been subjugated. The audacity of white privilege and the audacity of colonialism and all these other things. And I've been wanting to do the Frota Branca, the white fleet, because I find it absolutely amazing that a country that was teetering on, and that's probably the only good thing that Salazar ever did, was with the codfish fleet.
Oh, okay.
Here's a country that's starving. And the codfish saved these people, but what these men had to endure was, I know my stepfather, went on a few of those voyages. I mean, to be in a little boat by yourself in the middle of the North Atlantic.
And a lot of them didn't know how to swim.
No, that was the weirdness of it.
I don't know how to swim.
You don't know how to swim?
No. And people in my village didn't know how to swim. And if you go to the islands and you see that the old houses, not the new ones, the new mansions that people are building there. The
ones
old
that
houses.
Were repatriated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those houses, they all have their backs to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the front of the house, the living face of a house was inwards, was inland, because we didn't want to look to the ocean. First of all, the ocean was dangerous. And second, we were not incited to leave that place. We were supposed to go there and stay.
Yeah.
The islands.
Yeah.
And then the ocean was considered to be a very dangerous thing, which was, especially in my village, which we didn't have access to the water. It was cliffs all around.
Right.
People went there from other places to kill themselves. We have this high, and they jumped over. It's this.
My
this
first experience in Terceira, we landed right next to Lodge. My first thing was it's kind of trivial, but it was a layover. It was only a few hours, and what was great about it was it wasn't like Ponta Delgada, what you stay in the aquarium, you can't get out of that room, even though you have everything you need in there. But I walked out, and it looked like a dormant volcano, and there was a bunch of these little bars. And I said, next time I come here, I go to Portugal, I want to stop in Terceira specifically, and wander, hire somebody and get the whole look of the island. And then, of course, when I got to Portugal, I was heading towards customs. The guy said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to customs." He's like, "Oh, you already landed on Portuguese soil. Yeah, just go out and get out of here."
Yeah.
So that
they're very friendly.
Yeah. So it was really good, but. The island is beautiful, and the
people
feeling
are very friendly.
Yeah. But I also think that because of the returning Portuguese, and because nothing will ever stay the same. No. I was just speaking with Floriano Cabral. We had coffee this morning, and he was talking about his house had been ransacked by the deportees, but from what was that, the 80s, when they because of the drug problem, and they focused on the Portuguese community, and they sent them back. These kids had no idea what their heritage was. They were shunned,
and they died.
Yeah, it's something. A lot of them, committed suicide, and it's a. Why do we do this to each other?
Yeah, well, I think America had no business to send broken people to their place of origin, because they were broken here. Let's fix them here.
Again.
They're doing it again. You cannot break a spirit and then send it to the back of to the original place. You broke it, you fix it.
Yeah.
They did that in the 80s, and those people that went back, of course, they were not angels. They went back because they did stuff.
Right.
But the fact is, they were put into a place where people were not prepared. To receive them.
No.
They were not prepared. They committed crimes. They insulted people. They attacked women. They did stuff like that.
Right.
And then eventually, which in my books you will see a lot, there is justiça da noite. Eventually they will be punished. And what would happen was things happened to them. Either suicide or something else, or they fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
They started dying and disappearing.
It's enough. Exactly. Because a bunch of people are going to get together and say, "No."
But what can people do? If it's the only protection they have.
Yeah.
Is you are not going to do that to me. The next time you do that to me, something is going to happen to you.
Right.
And no one knows anything. Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh yeah.
It's justiça da noite, kind of.
And I'm just flashing back on a friend. Her husband was a year behind me in graduate school in the University of Miami. She was a Cuban refugee. She was being groomed by the Castro government to be the poster girl, one of the poster youth. Her father was a doctor. They got out of it was miraculous. He jumped out of a window, and they found themselves in Miami. But that kind
With
of
her, she came with her parents.
She came with him. It was so. This idea of having this heritage, this not lived experience, but this heard or felt experience from the person who experienced it, I think makes us different from the quote unquote, air quotes, average American, because they look at you as though, what are you talking about?
They think you have a fancy imagination when you talk about certain things.
Right.
But you are speaking from experience at a DNA level in my case.
And they say that trauma lives in that DNA.
In those cells.
In those cells,
yes.
exactly.
You can't imagine how I react to things that people just, why are you reacting that way? Well, I've been there.
Yeah.
I know what this is and know what it sounds like, and I know what it's going to be.
So, are you ever going to veer off of Hawk Island and come off of, not just, because it's that someday I'll thing, because you've been packing away little bits and pieces of information, and you think to yourself, yeah, I'm going to do something that's totally different because I just want to see how it's going to turn out.
It's interesting that you asked me that question, because someone asked me that question, and I can't see myself writing about anything else other than my experience as a woman, framed in my culture. My culture, the Portuguese culture, as you well know, is not a kind culture to women.
No.
We are groomed. We were born and groomed to be subservient to the men in our lives. And when I said and that story can be told through Hawk Island or whatever medium, but all I need to say is this thing, especially having women as two women as my daughters, and I have a granddaughter. I feel this responsibility to say, no, you have to verbalize your thoughts. You are not second in anyone's life. I was reading this article on the Atlantic of Boys and Men by some Dr. Reeves or whatever, where he's exploring the new situation of men and boys in our culture here in America, that they feel lost because this wall, this cadre, this multitude of women are no longer there to serve their ascension.
They have no place. They are no longer the breadwinner. They are no longer the protector. They're no longer any of those archetypes, stereotypes. Yeah.
And they feel lost without that support. So the shoulders of women are not there for them to step on and grow out of that.
Yeah.
So that support that they used to have from the women in their lives is no longer there. That support, because women are saying, how about me? This is time that I, as a human being, I deserve to grow. I deserve to be. But men have not yet, or the boys and men, according to the book, have not yet found the place where they say, okay, I support you because I can do this, that, and the other. They are no longer the breadwinner. They are no longer the authority. They no longer have the veto power in the family because women are not allowing it and all that. Where do they stand?
Yeah.
And this is really a crisis for mothers who have boys. But for mothers who have girls, I say, well, it's about time.
Yeah.
That time of reflection.
Flashing back on the recordings in my brain of my mother's rantings, if that's what some people would call it.
She had daughters?
No. I'm the only one. And from that marriage, and then my brother Bill from the second marriage, and that's what the connection is to Figueira, because John was born in Gloucester, but his family was from Praia de Boarcos, and his father was a fisherman, and his mother was a Verena. Yeah.
She must have had a great voice.
Dona Conceição Duarte, but the Duarte is a name that only exists in Gloucester and someplace in Seattle. Duwart.
Oh,
And-
no, Duarte, D-U-A-R-T-E.
No. So
Oh.
there's another mystery there.
Could it be like a deviation from Duarte?
No. Like I said, Gloucester is loaded with them, and I'd love to someday find out what that's all about. And there's some conjecture it might have been some connection to the Azores with the Dutch coming in or something, or maybe just the Dutch directly in Portugal because, you know, they were
That's
allies
interesting.
at one time. So anyway, you know, these are the things that and case in point, my mother stopped singing in 65 when they got married because he couldn't take, and he saw her perform, and that's how he met her. He couldn't take the
attention that she was getting?
you know, the elbows because Fedishas weren't considered nice girls. You know, they were nothing more than sex workers that sang, to use a very gross example.
Exactly,
all right?
exactly.
And yeah, there was that thing, and yet there were, she tells me, powerful women in her life. You know, the moment you saw a Portuguese woman put her hand on her hips, watch out.
Yeah, you had it coming.
Scatter, move. Yeah, it's gonna
Thank
happen.
God it changed a bit, but it still has the roots there. People still look at those roots.
Yeah. So the idea of doing, you know, the thing on the White Fleet of the cod fishing is that a country driven to such desperations, it was, you know, and then yet look at Portugal. I mean, you're a writer, you're a poet. There's something about the Portuguese DNA, some of the finest writing ever created. I mean, just read the lyrics to the Father. Some of them are so incredibly
well
difficult
done.
to translate.
Exactly. So well done. So well done. No one can write about sorrow and pain like the Portuguese.
No.
We are masters at that.
Oh, I mean, I was talking to Floriano, and Paulina Arruda across the hall at WJFD is bound and determined to find a recording, at least one of my mother. I know I remember as a kid, they recorded the show with Manuel Catul. He just passed away. He was around a long time too. And Floriano told me, he says, no, chances are slim because they were cheap. They would erase the tape and use it for another program. You
What
know?
a find that would be, huh?
Oh my God, and yeah, especially que Deus me perdoe, if God would forgive me, because
She used to sing that.
jeez, yeah. But and this is so great about this heritage, and we're gonna start wrapping this up in just a bit. But where do you see, I mean, your market and your books going and your career going at this point right now?
First of all, in terms of marketing and career, I'm a disaster.
Okay.
If it were not for my daughters, I would just, if it was not for my daughters, I wouldn't have published.
Mm-hmm.
I like to write, and everything else is secondary. It's like I have the need to put that out there, not inside of me. I don't want those thoughts. I don't want that thinking. I want that on paper. If it is on paper, it's not inside of me, and I feel better.
Right.
And then, but they start saying you should publish, and I would never pursue a career in writing that type of looking for an agent,
the celebrity that comes with it.
sending my manuscript to a publishing company,
Right.
being denied 150 times. No, I could not,
Right.
because I didn't have the type of ambition to
Right.
be that type of writer. So when I retired, I said, okay, I'll self-publish.
Yeah.
And this way I'll work for myself. After I self-published, I had publishers that wanted me to sign with them. But you would be working for somebody else. Like, for instance, we have this conversation today because Lara made that connection.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had a publisher, he or she would make me do A, B, C, D interviews, go here, there, and everywhere,
Yeah.
because it would be under my contract.
Right.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I only do what I want, and I only write when I want, and I only publish when I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very freeing.
So, and I brought this up many, many times on this show. My wife asked me with my painting career because, it gets frustrating. It's not discovery. It's not
No.
celebrity. I don't want any of that. Recognition? Yes. She calls it validation.
Especially from your peers.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be nice to sell. It's like having fish. Eventually,
Exactly.
you got to sell it, right?
I so do understand that
Yeah.
because I don't need the my books to give me money for me to survive. I don't need that.
Right.
But it would be nice. It's the validation that you're talking about.
Right.
That if I made some money with my books, so I get my royalties, and every time I see my bank statement
Right.
with, oh my God, those dollars have more value to me than.
Well,
Yeah.
she asked, do I want to be sustained by my art, my painting, or do I want to be supported? And I said, can I have both? And she says, no, because one poisons the other.
Well, I don't know if the world of painting, of artists like you, is the same as writers and the publishing industry, but they are quite nasty. The
Don't
publishing.
forget, say you've done Hawk Island and you feel you've gotten your dollar's worth out of it, and you want to move on. There's something that based on the conversation we just had now, and you're like, ooh, and they're like, oh no, we want you to continue with this. And it's just like a friend in Detroit did this incredible painting. It went international, and all of a sudden, he's making prints, and all of a sudden, it was almost too much of a good thing all at once. And then my thought was, how do you top your greatest achievement?
That's what you mean
You
by
become
supported?
you become your own greatest competition. How can you ever do that again? It's like cooking this incredible meal, and then the only thought in your head is to cook the next meal as good as that or better than that. And because you're thinking that way, you'll never be able to achieve that. You just have to let it go.
Yeah, you have to have that emotional freedom to do whatever you want to do, not because you have to top yourself again, or not because someone expects you to do this, that, and the other,
Right.
but just go with your soul. And that's the freedom that I have, because if I were to live by the proceeds of my books,
Right.
I would be very hungry. That's not enough.
Right.
And but fortunately, I don't have to. I only do this for pleasure. But my daughters do take me, like my daughter said, now you have to go on Substack and write deeper stories about the characters on Hawk Island for people to be acquainted to them.
Monographs, I think they call it. Yeah.
And I've been doing that, but I didn't even know there was such a thing as Substack.
Yeah.
Now I do. And because I have people who help me to be on the 21st century. Because alone I wouldn't be able to get there.
Of the 7 books, which one, or do all of them really have really focused on immigration? Because right now immigration is huge, because
All of them.
Because we have weird things. We have emigration, people who want to get the hell out of here,
And immigration.
and people who still, I bumped into some guy wearing a red hat, and he's like, he just decided he was going to spew off his hatred. He saw some people that didn't look like him, and he's like, oh, these damn people, but what are they doing in this country? And it's like, they want to have the same thing that you have. Oh yeah, they want to take it away from me. No, they just want to have the same thing that you have, because they couldn't have that where they came from. They were hungry. They were afraid for their lives, and they had no way of advancing themselves financially.
That's pretty sad. That's pretty
How
sad.
could you be that? I mean, like, where did your family come from? You think, they just popped out of the earth?
Yeah, that's pretty sad when people think like that. But I only hope that we find our way, because as we are right now, I could never imagine that a man, and not a very smart man, could destroy in 100 days what has been built for 250. How do we let that happen?
Because they say you elect the government you deserve.
Do we deserve this?
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people.
We've been self-indulgent, I guess.
Well, there's so many theories, not conspiracy ones, but theories of why do the fascists get rid of all the intellectuals? Because they don't want people to think for themselves.
Exactly.
You've got those people who will always be subservient, that they're lucky that they didn't get it. They're happy to go to bed at night, that they weren't beaten, that they had something to put into their stomachs, and that they get to wake up the next morning and start all over again. And that's sad. We need art and we need culture, and that is.
And that's what is being under attack right now.
Exactly.
The universities, the thinkers, the art, the artists.
Right. So we got to wrap this up. This is great. But as I
Thank
told
you so
Laura
much.
and other people, there are people who come here, and to use the analogy of the metaphor, I always get those wrong, but of books, is some people are a paragraph, and I'm not saying anything bad about any of my wonderful guests that I've had the privilege to speak with, and some people are a page. And some people are a couple of pages, some people are a chapter, some people are a book, and some people are an entire series of books. So I'd love to hear more about this, especially as things evolve. And one of the drives I've got right now is I want to follow through on Paulina Arruda's idea of focusing on Luso-American culture. That there was you come from another country. And people just suppose, peshtiskas, the barefooted people come over, and that you're just this poor thing. You're ignorant. You can't read. You can't write. Well, you can't read or write English. But they just assume all these things, and yet you've got newspapers that are founded. You have artists. You have performers.
Yeah.
You have an entire culture that is brought over as well, and then is tweaked with in dovetails with the American culture, and I think that's important.
I heard someone say to me once, "Do you know, I came from another country, and I went, I traveled the world, and everywhere I go, and if I speak that language with an accent, they revere me because they know I speak another language. Here in the United States is the only place they look down at me if I speak with an accent."
My mother would say the same thing, but I've got an accent. I said, "Ma, you speak 3 languages.
That's it.
English, Portuguese, and Spanish. And you can hold your own in French."
I hope we grow out of this ethnocentric ways that we have.
Yeah.
We are very ethnocentric here in the United States. If we are not American, I hear in the news 9 American lives were lost. Well, it means that American lives are not worth more than any other life.
No.
Right?
No.
We are very ethnocentric.
Yeah.
And I hope, but United States is still a teenager compared to the rest of the world.
Yes.
And teenagers are very
ethnocentric.
ethnocentric.
Yeah. And they're very conscious of it as well.
Exactly.
And that's what, as I told you before we started recording, my Portuguese became atrophied. And then going to and there were certain things. Yeah, there were certain things like how do you say washing machine? Because there were none. So there was not. You know what I'm saying? There were none of those things. But there are also other things that I didn't know. And plus, the Portuguese kind of got dumbed down a bit over here comparative to over there.
Oh yes.
And so, but again, being the son of my mother.
It's amazing that you have so much of the Portuguese culture.
Well, the DNA says I'm 99 point. No, 98 point something percent of Iberian.
Oh, and you embrace it.
Like the I'm like the Portuguese cheddar man. We never left that. Our DNA never left that spot until they emigrated here, and then the newest thing came in is I'm 4% North African.
Oh.
So.
Is that Morocco right there at the end?
Probably, yeah, and it probably explains a lot of things too. It also probably explains my grandfather because of the way the Sephardis,
Exactly.
their travel patterns and such. But it's important. And people ask me, well, why are you guys doing this? What's so important about this? And they don't understand, speaking with you alive is a great thing, obviously.
Right.
But if I try to put something out there and say, hey, if your parents or your relatives or acquaintances or whatever were authors or painters or whatever, come on down. We want to hear this story. And we noticed that we weren't getting a lot of takers because they only know a very small percentage of this person's life, and they're too embarrassed to say that. But it's like, you don't understand. Tell us what you know. And then someone may hear and say, that guy used to live next door to me.
Living connection, yes.
And we just keep, it's the stone soup, which I first heard from my mother, because she insists that that's a Portuguese thing. I said,
Sopa de pedra.
Yeah. And it's probably from the Peninsula Wars, But that's what it is. So let's see. One final question: if you had anything that you could do over again
in my life,
in your life, what would that be?
Anything that I would do over again would make me not have my daughters, and I would not do that. My daughters are the most precious things, the precious people, the most precious thing I have in my life. So for me to redo anything in my life that I would not do would mean that it would not be part of my life. So I would do everything all over again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think back as well, and that's a good point of view.
For them, I would do everything twice over, if need be.
Exactly. Well, folks, thank you for listening. And if you joined us late, we've been speaking with Manuela Da Costa, who is the author of the Hawk Island series. It'll all be on the companion blog post. On our website, and it's been a wonderful conversation, and we've got to wrap it up because we're Portuguese and we could go on for hours, and if we brought in some wine and some food, and we'd go for days. But anyway, with that in mind, thanks so much for joining us, and remember to take care of yourself and be kind to other people. Bye-bye.
To learn more about the South Coast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Be the artist you believe you are, and let's take care of each other out there.